Get something out, though. I ain't racing you for free. You didn't earn it. I did. I was giving him $1,000 to race farm trucks so that when he won, he could pay me later.
They built Street Outlaws together from nothing. Best friends, business partners, brothers in everything but blood. For over a decade, Big Chief and Murder Nova were the beating heart of the most watched street racing show in television history. The friendship that the audience fell in love with. The one that made everything feel real. By 2026, that friendship is gone. Murder Nova co-founded a new racing league that does not include Big Chief. The franchise they built together moved in a direction Big Chief refused to follow. And the man who was once the undisputed face of Street Outlaws is racing independently, outside every major structure, building something new on his own terms. So what really happened? The fallout that nobody saw coming. They built the whole thing together, and then one day it was over. No dramatic confrontation captured on camera. There was no public fight that the audience could point to as the moment it all broke down. Just a friendship that quietly stopped being what it had always been, and a gap where something irreplaceable used to be. To understand how significant that loss actually is, you have to understand where the whole story started. Justin Shearer was born on December 9th, 1980, in Louisville, Kentucky. Raised by a single mother after his father died young. That early loss shaped him in ways that people who watched him on television for 15 seasons could feel without being able to name. A particular kind of self-reliance. He had a particular way of building loyalty to the people he chose to trust. He moved to Oklahoma City as a young man. And somewhere along Old Route 66, on the western edge of the city, he found the thing that would define the rest of his life. Street racing. The raw, unregulated, completely illegal version where the only rules were speed, nerve, and the quality of the machine underneath you. He was 9 years old the first time he watched it happen. He was 16 years old when he bought his first car. A 1972 Pontiac Le Mans that he named the Crow. A car that would become one of the most recognizable vehicles in the history of American racing television. But in the beginning, it was just a boy and a machine and a stretch of road that felt like freedom. That is where Sean Ellington found him. Ellington, known as Murder Nova, had built his own legend in the same Oklahoma City street racing world. His 1969 Chevy Nova was as recognizable as the Crow. His style on the track was different from Chief's. Quieter, more methodical. Big Chief was theatrical, confrontational, and loved the psychological warfare of pre-race trash talk. Ellington was the man who simply showed up, went faster than everyone expected, and went home. Together, they were perfect television, and they understood that before any camera crew ever arrived, they co-founded Midwest Street Cars, a shop operation that became a genuine hub for the Oklahoma City racing community. And eventually, a global brand that neither of them probably imagined when they were bolting engines together at 3 in the morning. It was the physical base of everything the show would be built on. Street Outlaws premiered on the Discovery Channel in 2013. The format was simple in description and explosive in execution. Real street racers in Oklahoma City are competing on illegal roads for real stakes with real consequences. No manufactured drama or scripted rivalries. Just people who had been doing this for years are finally being documented doing it. The show caught fire immediately, and the friendship between Big Chief and Murder Nova was the reason audiences kept coming back. Not the racing alone, the friendship. You can watch fast cars anywhere. You cannot watch a genuine brotherhood as easily. The audience recognized what they were seeing, and they held on to it. The fracture was gradual. It does not have a single origin point that either man has ever identified publicly. The first visible sign came when Ellington moved his personal tuning operation out of the Midwest Street Cars and into his own separate shop in Season 6. A professional separation that carried personal weight neither of them addressed directly at the time. The distance grew from there. Slowly, season by season, the on-screen dynamic that had always felt effortless began to register differently for the audience. Something was different. Most people could not articulate exactly what, but they felt it. By 2026, the picture is completely clear. Sean Ellington is CEO of 187 Customs LLC. He co-founded the Outlaw Syndicate Small Tire series alongside Ryan Martin and Carson Baker. A new racing league with $20,000 payouts on prepped tracks, a defined structure, and a growing audience. Big Chief is not part of it. He was not invited, or he declined. Neither man has said which. There is no evidence of reconciliation, no joint appearances, or social media acknowledgement of what they built together. The friendship that built a franchise worth hundreds of millions of dollars ended without a public fight. And that silence is louder than anything either of them has said. The marriage, the divorce, and Jackie Brosh Big Chief met Alicia at a gas station when he was 18 years old. He said later that he knew immediately he was going to have trouble with this girl. He was nervous. Unsettled in the way that only happens when something real is standing in front of you. He knew that the first meeting was not going to be the last one. He was right. Just not in the way either of them imagined. Alicia Lee Howard was born on August 18, 1980 in Oklahoma. She was 17 when they met in 1999. Big Chief was working at a full-service gas station. She came in. He noticed her. And something shifted in the way things shift when two people are going to matter to each other for a long time. They became friends first, then more. She supported his racing from the beginning, through the years before the cameras arrived and the long nights at the shop. The early mornings at the track and all the unglamorous middle distance between ambition and success. They got engaged in 2005. They married on September 29, 2006 in a private ceremony. 2 boys arrived in the years that followed, Corbin and Quavel Shearer. The family chief described with visible pride whenever the cameras caught him in a reflective moment. And then Street Outlaws happened. This is the part that matters for understanding what came next. Street Outlaws did not just make Big Chief famous, it absorbed him. The show demanded enormous amounts of time. The preparation, racing, and production schedule. The obligations that come with being the central figure of a television franchise that is growing faster than anyone had predicted. Chief said it himself in an unguarded moment that his fans have never forgotten. He knew he would look back someday and regret not spending more time at home, not being present enough when his boys were growing up, chasing the next big thing instead of playing with his kids. He said it out loud, on camera, in the specific way that people sometimes say true things when they are not entirely sure they mean to. It was unfair to his kids that he had not grown up yet. Those are not comfortable words for any man to say about himself, but Big Chief said that, and the audience respected him more for it. The marriage was straining under the weight of all of this for years before it became public. The competing demands of a television career and a family were not ones that anyone had given him a manual for navigating, and the racing world, which had always been his primary identity, was not one that naturally accommodated the kind of presence a marriage and 2 young children require. Then Jackie Brosh entered the picture. Jacqueline Brosh was born in Joliet, Illinois. She grew up in a family with deep roots in drag racing. Her father had been involved in motorsports since he was young. He started taking her to the track as a baby. She started junior dragsters at age 8. She was competing in full-sized dragsters by 17. She became a member of Car Chicks, an organization promoting women in motorsports, and finished in the top 12 of their ladies-only drag race in 2014. In 2015, she was named Car Chicks Girl and received a Spitzer dragster with a 510 cubic inch big block Chevy. She was a real racer before she was ever associated with Big Chief. That distinction matters. Her presence in the Street Outlaws world was not an accident of proximity to a famous man. She was already there, already competing, and building her own reputation in a world where a woman's credibility has to be earned twice. The rumors about Big Chief and Jackie started circulating before the divorce became public. The audience saw them together, and the speculation built. Big Chief initially denied everything. He said publicly that he had not cheated on his wife. He said he was being criticized for something he did not do. The people who believed the rumors would eventually understand the truth and become his fans again. The subsequent events did not entirely support the denial. Jackie became his girlfriend. The timeline of when exactly the relationship began has never been definitively established publicly. Big Chief said, "She is my future." And then he moved on. The divorce was finalized in 2017. Irreconcilable differences were the legal framing. Alicia kept her composure throughout the public dimensions of it, and has maintained a low profile ever since. She returned to her career as a respiratory therapist. She focused on raising the boys. And she has not spoken publicly about the specifics of what ended the marriage. She has simply gotten on with her life with the same quiet dignity she brought to everything about her time as a public figure's wife. Big Chief and Alicia co-parent Corbin and Koval. The arrangement is described as amicable. He posts about his sons with genuine warmth on Instagram. The regret he expressed about missing their early years has not disappeared. If anything, it has intensified as they have grown older, and the window for the kind of presence he wished he had given them has narrowed. Jackie remains his partner in 2026, 8 years together, not married, a shared passion for cars and racing that forms the practical and emotional foundation of the relationship. The marriage ended, and so did his friendship with Murder Nova. And then the show itself started changing in ways Chief never agreed with. That third loss is the one that explains everything that came next. Why Big Chief left Street Outlaws. Big Chief did not leave Street Outlaws because he stopped loving racing. He left because the racing stopped being what Street Outlaws was supposed to be about. That distinction is the entire explanation. And it is one that a significant portion of the original fan base understood immediately, even when the show's producers and the network and most of the remaining cast had moved enthusiastically in a different direction. Street Outlaws started on a simple premise: real people, streets, and consequences. No safety crew is positioned at the end of a prepared track. There was no grandstand full of paying spectators, and absolutely no rulebook thicker than your fist. Just a stretch of road somewhere in Oklahoma City, and a list of the baddest cars in the region, and the question of who was fastest. That was the show. That was what 3.1 million people tuned into on premiere night in 2013. It was what built the franchise into something worth hundreds of millions of dollars across 15 seasons. They built multiple spin-offs and a global audience in countries that had never heard of Oklahoma City before the Discovery Channel showed them what was happening on its streets. And then piece by piece, season by season, the show drifted away from those streets. No prep kings moved the competition to drag strips. Professional facilities with timing equipment and safety crews, and structured eliminator formats that looked increasingly like legitimate motorsport. And decreasingly like anything that had ever happened under a streetlight in the middle of the night. The money got bigger. The cars got more expensive. But the $500,000 pro mod builds that started appearing made the original spirit of the show feel like a distant memory. Fastest in America sent crews to different cities to race on prepared surfaces in front of organized audiences. It was all technically impressive. Some of it was genuinely exciting television. But it was not what Street Outlaws was supposed to be. Big Chief's growing absence from the main show became visible to the audience before it became a public conversation. He appeared in Season 2 of America's List. He posted on Instagram in November of 2021 that he had been filming, and then teased what he called possibly the biggest, craziest thing that had ever happened in Street Outlaws history. The audience held its breath. Whatever he was building toward never fully arrived in the way he had promised. America's List did not return for a third season. Big Chief's involvement with the franchise contracted rather than expanded. The last significant public statement he made about his position in the Street Outlaws world was in March of 2022. Since then, the silence from him on the subject of the show has been consistent and complete. Here is the micro question worth answering directly. Was Big Chief pushed out, or did he walk? The honest answer is that neither version of the story tells the whole truth on its own. The franchise moved in a direction he philosophically opposed. The television machine that Street Outlaws had become by its later seasons was not the thing he had signed up to be the face of. The professional track shows that the rest of the cast embraced, and that the network was actively encouraging, was precisely the direction Chief had always argued against. Whether that disagreement was expressed through formal contract negotiations, or simply through his decreasing presence and enthusiasm, is something that has never been fully documented publicly. What is documented is the outcome. Big Chief and Street Outlaws parted ways without a definitive public explanation from either side. Doc Love, one of the original 405 cast members, gave an interview to Drag Illustrated in 2025. The interview was published as Speed Promotions Racing canceled the final races of its season, effectively ending the Street Outlaws era. He described the original show in terms that Chief would have agreed with completely. They were just doing some silly, stupid teenage stuff in their adulthood. Nobody thought it was going to become what it became. That description is the key. The show worked because it was genuinely stupid, dangerous, and real in a way that no produced competition format could replicate. Especially once the lawyers and the safety crews and the television executives got deeply involved. The NHRA Outlaw Street series announced for 2026 features Sean Ellington, Ryan Martin, and Scott Taylor among its competitors. Big Chief is not among them. The Outlaw Syndicate's small tire series that Ellington co-founded with Martin and Carson Baker features $20,000 payouts on prepped tracks with a defined competitive structure. Big Chief is not part of that either. In 2026, he remains entirely outside every major institutional structure that carries the Street Outlaws name or its legacy forward. Not as a disgruntled former employee, or as someone who lost a contract dispute, but as a man who looked at what the franchise had become and made a deliberate decision that his name and his identity were not going on that particular product. That is a position that costs something financially. A television contract at the level the franchise operates provides income, visibility, and a platform that independent racing cannot fully replicate. Big Chief chose the principle over the paycheck. Not every person in his position would have done the same thing. The people who built empires out of the franchise he helped create are being paid very well for the compromises they made. Big Chief kept his integrity and his independence. And what he built inside that independence is the most interesting part of the story yet. He was not finished. He had never been finished. The Crow was already evolving. The Crow Mod, and the new build Big Chief has been racing since he was 9 years old. He is not going to stop because a television franchise changed direction. That is not a motivational statement. It is simply the documented record of what the man has done every single time something in his life went sideways. The marriage ended. He kept racing. The friendship with Murder Nova dissolved. He still kept on racing. The show moved away from everything he believed in. He kept racing. The car changes. The commitment does not. To understand what the current chapter of Big Chief's racing life actually looks like, you have to understand what the Crow meant, not just as a vehicle, as an identity. He bought the 1972 Pontiac Le Mans at 16 years old with money he had earned from racing, not from a part-time job or from an allowance, from winning. At 16 years old, he was already good enough at this thing to finance his own next move through the results of his previous one. That is not a normal childhood. It is a specific kind of talent meeting, a specific kind of obsession at a young age. It was producing something that looks from the outside like extraordinary destiny and feels from the inside like the only possible version of your own life. The Crow became his signature, season after season of Street Outlaws. The car evolved alongside the show, new engines and configurations, new performance targets as the competition around him escalated, and the machines on the 405 list became increasingly insane. The Crow kept pace. Sometimes it sets the pace. Then came the Crow Mod. The modified version of the build pushed the car's performance ceiling significantly higher. It was the product of years of accumulated knowledge about what the platform could do, and what it needed to do it consistently. The Crow Mod was not just a faster version of the Crow, it was a statement about where Big Chief stood within the competitive hierarchy of the racing world he had been part of since childhood. For a period, it was exactly what he needed it to be. And then, in 2025-2026, he sold it. The Crow Mod went to a Texas team. The car that had carried his identity through the peak years of Street Outlaws changed hands and went south. No dramatic announcement and no emotional farewell video cataloging what it had meant. It was sold the way professionals sell things when they have decided it is time for the next chapter. Quietly and completely. Sit with what that decision actually represents for a man who has been associated with that specific vehicle since he was a child. The Crow was not just a racing car, it was the physical object that connected every version of Justin Shearer from the 12-year-old on Old Route 66 to the adult television personality and back again. Selling it was the closing of a chapter in a way that no public statement could have communicated as clearly. Something new was already being built. The current project is a twin turbocharged Pontiac-powered build. The specification is deliberate and the philosophy behind it is explicit. The car prioritizes street characteristics over track performance. Read that choice against everything the previous sections have established. The franchise he helped build moved relentlessly toward professional track racing. More preparation, structure, safety, and distance from the original spirit of what Street Outlaws was. Big Chief's new build goes in the opposite direction, deliberately, pointedly. A car designed to be fast on real roads rather than optimized for prepared surfaces. A machine that embodies the exact philosophy he refused to abandon when the show moved away from it. That is not accidental. It is a statement made in the language Big Chief has always been most fluent in, not words, metal, horsepower. The specific choices made in a workshop communicate values more honestly than any interview ever could. Jackie Brosh is part of the operation. In 2025 and 2026, her role has evolved from girlfriend and fellow racer to tuner and technical consultant for Midwest street cars. The shared passion for cars that drew them together is now expressed through a professional collaboration that runs underneath their personal relationship. She brings genuine technical expertise to the build process. Her background in bracket racing and her years of working on high-performance engines are not decorative credentials. The shop continues to operate. Midwest Street Cars remains the base. The brand that Chief and Murder Nova built together now carries only one of their names in any meaningful operational sense. But it is still standing, still producing, and the center of gravity for Chief's professional life in the way it has been since before any television crew ever pointed a camera at it. The question the fan community has been asking loudest in 2025 and 2026 is whether any of this independent activity eventually finds its way back to a camera. The J.J. Dawboss reunion rumors have been circulating with enough persistence to suggest something more than pure fan speculation. Both men have been dropping hints. Chief about unfinished business with old friends. J.J. about big changes coming to the streets. The specific framing of both sets of hints has led the racing community online to a very specific conclusion. Something is being built, not just a car. The show and franchise changed, the friendship changed, the marriage changed, and the car changed, but the man behind all of it has not. And that consistency is the most compelling thing about where Big Chief stands in 2026. Where Big Chief stands in 2026 after everything, the show changed beyond recognition. The car sold. Where does Justin Shearer actually stand in 2026? The answer is both simpler and more interesting than most of the headlines that have followed him since he faded from the Street Outlaws franchise suggest. He is racing, independently, on his own terms, building a new car that reflects the values he refused to compromise when the franchise he helped create went in a direction he did not believe in. Running Midwest Street Cars without a television contract, and without a spot on any of the institutional structures that now define the Street Outlaws universe. That is the simple version. Now here is the interesting version. Big Chief in 2026 is a man who has lost several of the most significant things in his life across a relatively compressed period. A best friendship that was also a business partnership, a 10-year marriage, a television platform that had made him one of the most recognizable figures in the American motorsport world, and a car that had been the physical embodiment of his identity since childhood. Most people who lose that volume of significant things simultaneously do one of two things. They collapse inward, or they rebuild so loudly and so visibly that the rebuilding becomes its own kind of performance. Big Chief has done neither. And that is what makes his current chapter genuinely compelling rather than simply sympathetic. His Instagram at BigChiefOKC remains active. His posts are not the curated content of a brand managing its public perception. They are the unfiltered output of a man who has been communicating directly with the people who care about his work since before social media was the primary way people did that. Shop updates, racing activity, moments with his sons. The kind of content that has always defined his public presence is because it has always reflected his actual life rather than a managed version of it. His sons, Corbin and Covell, are growing up. The regret he expressed publicly about missing too much of their childhood during the height of the show has not dissolved. If anything, the passage of time has sharpened it. He posts about them with the specific warmth of a father who is trying to be more present now than he was able to be then. The co-parenting arrangement with Alicia remains functional. She has continued to protect her own privacy and theirs. The boys are not being raised in front of cameras, and that is entirely by design. Jackie Brosh is still beside him, 8 years as of 2026, not married but not going anywhere either. The relationship has evolved from the publicly scrutinized romance into something considerably more private and more grounded. She works with him and tunes for him. She brings technical credibility to the operation that complements his racing instincts. In the same way that good partnerships in any field work when both people bring something the other genuinely needs. His net worth sits at approximately $2 million. That number positions him comfortably, but not extravagantly. The absence of a television contract is financially significant in the world, especially in a world where the other leading figures from the franchise he helped build are earning at a considerably higher level through the Outlaw Syndicate and the NHRA partnership. Big Chief chose integrity over income. Whether that choice feels like the right one depends on what you believe the point of the whole enterprise was in the first place. And this is where the Street Outlaws universe in 2026 provides the most useful context for understanding where Chief stands within it. The franchise now operates across 3 distinct formats. No Prep Kings airs on Discovery on Monday nights. The Outlaw Syndicate Small Tire series runs independently under Ellington and Martin with $20,000 payouts on prepped tracks. The NHRA Outlaw Street series puts franchise stars on professional NHRA tracks during national events in front of paying grandstands. Big Chief is absent from all 3. The man who was once the undisputed face of Street Outlaws does not appear in any of the structures that carry the franchise forward in 2026. His name does not appear in the lineups. His car is not on the trailers. His voice is not part of the conversation that the franchise is currently having with its audience. But here's the thing about that absence that the simple narrative of a man left behind misses entirely. He was never trying to be part of what those 3 formats represent. He was never interested in the NHRA's professionalism, nor in the Outlaw Syndicate's structured competition format, or No Prep Kings' television-friendly elimination brackets. Those things are all in their own ways legitimate and exciting. But they are not street racing. They are professional motorsport athletes wearing street racing clothes. Chief saw that distinction coming years before the rest of the franchise committed to it. He refused to follow. And in 2026, he is the only figure from the original Street Outlaws cast whose identity remains entirely uncomplicated by the franchise's evolution. Big Chief lost the friendship. He lost the marriage and the show. And he is still exactly who he always was. A street racer from Oklahoma City who wanted nothing more than to go fast on real roads in front of people who understood what that meant. The question of whether that specific thing finds a new audience in 2026 is the one worth watching. Because the hints about what is coming next suggest that Big Chief is not done making noise. Big Chief lost a lot. The friendship, marriage, and the show. He lost the car that carried his name for over a decade. But he never lost the thing that mattered most. The reason he got on a bike at 9 years old and rode to Old Route 66 just to watch people go fast. Some people chase success until they lose themselves completely. Big Chief lost almost everything and found out exactly who he was. That is not a small thing. If this story hits something in you today, drop a comment below and share it with someone who needs to hear it.